Hello there. In this video lesson we're going to show you how you can use a grid pattern outline bracelet, and we're going to add to that a Celtic knot with a 4-leaf pattern as is shown on the screen there. So if you start Fluid Designer up, you need to go to the bracelets folder first of all. Now there's a 3 grid pattern, a 5 grid pattern and a 7 grid pattern. We're going to use the 3 grid pattern object here, so drag and drop that onto the workspace, and we'll stick with the default inner diameter of 65 millimeters, which is what it's set at the moment. We could of course select a different inner diameter and then just modify it, but we'll leave it at 65 millimeters. And what we're going to do is add a 4-leaf Celtic knot pattern and wrap it around this bracelet. We can do that by going to File and Append, and if we just go to the Groups folder, now we're going to use a Celtic knot pattern, and you can find that in Patterns Parametric. And we're going to use the 4-leaf pattern 002, and as usual it's the object that we want, so it's a Celtic knot pattern with 4 leaves. So we append that from the library. Now if we click on the bracelet itself, we can see, if we go here to the curve data information in the properties window, the cross section of this at the moment is 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. If we click on our Celtic knot, you can see the cross section of that is 1 millimeter and it's rounded. So I'm going to change that to make it the same cross section as the actual bracelet itself. And as you can see at the moment, it's at right angles to the actual bracelet if we're going to wrap the pattern around the bracelet. So what I'm going to do first of all, well, I'll just switch on the screencast keys so you can see the key presses here. I'm going to press R on the keyboard, X to rotate about the X-axis, and you can see the red line appear there for the X-axis, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees, so I type in the angle 90. Now if we view this from the front, one of the things that we can see here is that the size of this Celtic knot is smaller than the bracelet. So one of the things I could do here is to scale it. So if I press S on the keyboard and just scale it so it just touches the top and bottom of the bracelet there, and if I do Control A and just apply the scale, you'll see the thickness just changes, but it should still just touch. I mean, it'll be overlapping in the middle anyway, so that'll be okay. Alright, so I now want to wrap this around the bracelet. Well, first of all, let's click on the bracelet itself and just look at the modifiers. And the bracelet size is wrapped around the inner diameter. That's the default circle here, which is 65 millimeters. Say we haven't changed it to a different size. We're going to stick with that inner diameter that's setting there. So what we've got to do is we've got to take the Celtic knot pattern, and we've also got to apply a curve modifier to it, and we're going to curve it also about this inner diameter. That's the circle here. So as you can see, when we do that, the Celtic knot pattern very nicely lines up with this center mark here of the bracelet. But a thing to note about this center mark, it's in a slightly odd position here. It's not facing the X-axis, not following the X-axis or the Y-axis. It's kind of somewhere in between. And if I go to View to Front and press the Tab key, you'll see that my pattern, my Celtic knot pattern, is in the center of the grid there. And if I come out of edit mode, and if I press my if I select my bracelet and press the Tab key, you'll see that the bracelet itself is centered around the origin as well. There's an equal amount of bracelet on both sides. But even so, we still get this strange thing that the center of the bracelet is offset here. Now, why is that important? Well, if I want to have more than one copy of this, I need to create an array. And the thing about an array is I need to do it before the curve. If I just select array modifier and increase the count, you'll see that the Celtic knot's going off in a really weird direction there. So what it is we need the array modifier before the curve modifier. So let's just delete the curve modifier. Let's put in an array modifier, and then we'll put the curve modifier back in, and we'll set it to the inner diameter again. So you can see what's happening here is that the initial Celtic knot is centered here on the bracelet, but the second copy is going to the left. And if I do a third copy, fourth, fifth, you can see they're shooting off to the left. So let me just set it down to 3. Now, it's good to have an odd number here for what I'm about to do next, because really what I want to do is the center of this one should be positioned here, so that this Celtic knot is on the right, this Celtic knot is on the left, this one is in the center. So that's what we're really looking for. So how can we achieve that? Well, if we go to View and Front View, and if we press the Tab key to go into Edit mode. So what we want to do is to get this middle of the 3 Celtic knots centered here where the Z-axis is at the moment. So if I pull this across to the left, and if I just zoom in there, you can see that this is lined up now with the center line. And if I press the Tab key to come out of Edit mode, you can see that what's happening now is that the middle of the 3, we've got a count of 3, remember, the middle of the 3 Celtic knots is now lined up with the center. But if I put in a 4th or a 5th, it goes off center again. So we have to do the same thing. So if we view it from the front, press the Tab key, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the moment, so the third one, this one here, needs to be moved so that it's in line here with the blue line. That's the Z-axis that goes through the origin. So if I just move them to the left, that's now, it's not 100% in the right position, but it's roughly there at the moment. I will tidy it up eventually. Okay, so you can see it's almost in the center there. There's just a minor modification that I need to make. Now in my startup screen I actually had 11 of these Celtic knots, I think, going around. So I'll increase this a little bit more. I'll go up to 11. Okay, so we've got 11, so it's the 6th one that we need to line up as we've just been doing. So if we go into Edit mode and view from the front, we need to count them. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the one that we need to position here about the center. So I need to move off on. Let me just have a look whether that's the right one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I just need to move it a little bit more across. So I need to play around just a little bit here. Okay, now I've just gone a bit past there. Okay, so that's almost positioned now. But when I zoom in, you can see that the blue line is not quite along the center here. So how can we change this? Well, if we go look in the transform panel here, this value minus 70 is actually 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. That's how far we've moved this. we've moved it in the X direction, we've moved it to the left minus 70. We want to move the Celtic knot, I think we want to move it slightly more to the left to get into line with the blue line here with the center of the Celtic knot. So if we click to the left here, see, we can adjust it more accurately than we can by dragging the cursor, which is way over here. Alright, so we need to adjust it up here, and if I just zoom in now, you can see that that's pretty much spot on. If I just go back one, if I want to be really finicky and get that exactly right, I can try minus 70.4 millimeters. That's setting it back at 70.5, 70.2 millimeters. Okay, no, that's no good. 70.5, that's too much. So if we do 70.46, that's not quite, that's moved it the other way. No, still not moved it right. 4.8, maybe even 4.9. Yep, that's pretty much spot on now when I zoom in. Okay, so I can fine-tune it there, and when I press the tab key now to go into normal view, this is absolutely spot on in the middle there. So that's the way that you can actually adjust a pattern. You have to go into edit mode, adjust it with the X arrow key first of all, and then fine-tune it in the transform panel when you're in edit mode. Okay, so there's our 3-grid pattern bracelet, and we've added to that a Celtic knot pattern, and we've made 11 copies of that. And we've had to use a couple of modifiers, an array modifier to make the 11 copies, and a curve modifier to wrap it around the actual bracelet. Okay, so all you need to do now is to go to File and Export it as a wavefront object to the desktop. So it's a 65mm by 3-grid pattern with a Celtic knot 4-leaf. So you can save that as an OBJ file, and remember that you must always run this OBJ file through NetFab Basic, get NetFab to check it, make any minor repairs before you attempt to send the file to be sliced and sent to a 3D printer. So I'll just let that finish. Should be okay. Just applying all the modifiers, and should be finished in a second. There we are. So that's how you can use a 3-grid pattern bracelet object that's available for you in Fluid Designer for 3D printing. Thank you.